Phenomena. Phenomena. Phenomena.
Welcome back to another episode of Don't Be So Brewed, what we are officially now calling the hashtag best podcast of 2019. You know what's funny?
Not just us. I mean, other people are saying it.
I know. I've kind of heard that a lot when I've been meeting with people. You know what's funny is, for people listening, they won't know this, but technically this is on the same day as another podcast that we recorded. So I guess we technically still have to be the 302nd most popular podcast in the world at the moment, which is
right.
Pretty high if you know anything about the statistics about podcasts out there. There's a lot.
Yeah, we kind of figured instead of skipping a week, we'd just kind of double down and give you guys just a little bit extra.
Just never stop. Don't Be So Brewed is brought to you by Etchus, Red Light Media, and the Specific Chiropractic Centers Richardson. Hashtag cheap plug, right? Because that's what we're all about.
That's right.
Well, we just really appreciate our sponsors. You know, at this point, we don't have a ton, but the ones we have, we take really good care of.
And they matter.
Yeah, we just like to talk about them a lot. So I'm here once again with my bro host, Scott Zimmy Zimmerman.
What's up?
And I am Dr. Brandon Brown, a.k.a. Double B, a.k.a.
Dr. Burgundy.
Dr. Burgundy, as Scott likes to call me now. And once again, we have our special guest back with us again, Lenny Kravitz. Sorry, Jeremy Kravitz.
You wish it was Lenny.
No way, man.
Just
Lenny
make,
couldn't hang.
just make a couple of calls and make it happen.
It'd be pretty wicked. Hang on, let me.
That might be the title of one of these. I might just be like, we podcast with Lenny Kravitz? Just clickbait so many people. Be like, your nickname is Lenny is what we're going to officially say.
A lot of people would be pretty brewed, you know.
Oh, they
I
would
think
be
they
so
would be
brewed.
pretty brewed.
So to kick this episode off, I'm going to start us.
Before we even kick it off. Thank you for joining us. If you've been here before,
Scott
and
wants
if you
to say thank you.
Well,
if you're new, we
obviously.
appreciate you for coming and checking us out. Whoever told you, go tell them that you massively appreciate them
And buy them
because
a
they sent
beer.
you to the right place.
buy them a beer,
Yeah, or a coffee,
or a glass of wine, or
Yeah.
something good.
something that's real good.
They
Maybe
deserve a
even-
thank you,
Yeah,
one that matters.
because they're awesome.
Let them know they're thought of just like they thought of you.
Condoms are pretty expensive now.
Yeah, and if you're the person that sent them here, that you're coming back to join us, have that beer with them and enjoy it.
Exactly.
So now that we can move on, sorry, Scott, I didn't mean to jump over that. Scott
No.
wants to make sure that you guys
It's
feel
important.
welcomed.
It's
we
important.
Listen, we are so glad that you're back with us again.
Again.
So to kick this episode off, I'm going to do something a little different. So we've been playing around with what we want to have as like segments on the show. So this segment is what I'm going to start calling Story Time.
Story time.
Story time on this episode is going to be all
Tell
about
us, Dr. Brown.
Scott.
What's
See, Scott didn't know where I was going with this. I kind of left it vague when we went over everything, and I said,
we were gonna romper room
Yep.
this thing over
I'm like,
here, you know?
don't even, I'm just going to leave this right where it is. So, Scott, I've got an interesting story I need you to give me some details about.
50 Shades of Red.
And just tell 50 Shades of Burgundy. Is that what you're...
That's exactly right.
Which is my wardrobe. I get it.
That's the name of the segment, 50 Shades of Burgundy.
So I heard a story about you putting glue in people's keyholes and then a scenario with your dad chasing you.
Is this my brother or my dad?
Are you trying to figure out where I got this from?
Yeah.
It's a good question. I just need you to dive into this story because now everyone's on the hook and you've got to let everybody know what happened.
No, that's
And
fine.
it was a legit source.
Yeah, it's probably my brother.
I know he's like, damn, that's a legit source.
It
Listen,
is.
the reason
It's
I brought
true.
this up is because
It's not on the internet and
our
somehow it
families
still comes out.
But our
right?
families have been engaging on this stuff, and so I know my aunt actually commented to him, and I know she's going to be giving him some stories that Scott's now going to be able to bring on here. So I realize that this is just one of the things that we'll do to each other.
Noise.
So what he's trying to do is
But
get
I've-
a head start here.
Because I've now opened up the door. I know what's coming.
All right, that's
Hey,
fine.
man, whoever strikes
It's-
first
it's not
usually
that
wins.
bad.
So break it down for us,
You
Scott.
can't start wars you can't finish.
What
You know I
happened
mean?
here?
So when we were kids, we
How old?
Gosh, we had to be 6, 7 years old. This is when we first learned
35
about.
years ago.
This is when we first learned about crazy glue.
Right.
Okay. So everybody's got that time where
Glue that's crazy.
where they first learned about crazy glue. And this was before like all the Gorilla Glue and JB Weld and all that was even invented. So for you young bucks, you know, there was just one type of crazy glue at the time.
I've been around the crazy glue era.
Right. So we were playing with it, and we're like, man, it'd be kind of funny. We went over to the neighbors, and they had an old Datsun, and it wasn't like a 510 or anything like, you know, super cool. It was a little hatchback, and it's probably like a 74, 75, 76 in there. I don't remember which model it was. And we thought it would be funny to put the super glue into the key lock cylinder, squeeze it, because you wouldn't know that there was glue in it. The key just wouldn't get in. So we thought that'd be kind of funny, you know, right? I mean,
like any boy would think of, like, oh yeah.
I mean, I was a dumb kid. I mean, what am I
Neighbor's car.
100%.
Because when you can do that and you're sitting there and you're watching and they're trying to put the key in, but you know it's the right key and they're looking at the key, and we just thought that'd be kind of funny. So that's what we did. So that's the crazy glue. The what was the other piece you wanted to know about?
Well, then just apparently like the aftermath from that situation. I'm just curious of like what happened after you got
How
found
did it
out.
go down, bro?
Yeah.
Give us the deets.
I don't, honestly, I don't.
Don't just like tell us like, hey, we put some super glue in here.
We
It's
don't want
cool.
just a tip.
I don't remember. I mean, I know they were talking about it. I don't know that we got busted on it till a while later. The running down the street story was a totally different thing. It had nothing to do with that.
Okay.
With
I'll have to
that
check
one.
in with my sources.
You will.
What was the story that led to that? Was it?
Oh, I was just being a degenerate little kid, and I think I finally popped my dad's last fuse, and he started coming, and I saw the belt come off, and I just took off out of the house and down the street.
Everyone knows that sound. They're like,
It's like, peace. I mean, I took off. And
Grandma
he,
either
and,
grabbed something random that you knew was
and,
coming at
and
you.
he was hot on my tail, and he didn't get me, thank God. And I waited a little bit before I went back to hopefully catch a cool down, not just for me, but for him. So I didn't actually get whooped with it, but I used to get threatened with military school a lot.
Oh,
Like, go get your toothbrush, we're going, because I was just kind of that kid.
okay. So now story time in the future is going to be real good, because if we got stories like this, listen, I'll just tell one, since here's the thing, I'll just share one openly, because again, degenerate little kid and
Yep.
a boy. Boys tend to be more destructive. It's our default. For
We're,
some
we're,
damn
we're
reason.
physically destructive versus mentally destructive.
Yeah,
I think that's
we-
the difference between boys
Oh,
and
yeah.
girls.
100%. So one time,
It's true.
this was probably a little while after 4th of July, and we had some smoke bombs left over, and my parents said,
You don't get real fireworks in Oklahoma? Just smoke bombs?
dude, I'm like a kid. It's the best thing that we could have access to. You know, they hide all the good stuff. Yes, we had real fireworks. I love how this is like
It's
constantly.
like we make them for the rest of the country. How do you think you guys get them? Continue.
100%. People in Oklahoma, they care about that stuff. They'll spend a month's worth of salary on that. They'll be like, oh, we're going
My
ham.
friend Daniel's the same way. They
Fireworks and casinos.
They'll
That's
go
it.
and drop a couple grand on fireworks.
Oh, it's insane to me.
It's nice to have money.
So, my parents, it was my dad and my stepmom, they went to like the store or something. They were doing something, running errands. Or at the house, and we're like playing around with smoke bombs, and we like threw them in the gutter, and that was cool. Like the smoke's coming out of the gutter. And then we're like, well, we'll just light them and throw them on top of the house. Well, when you light them and throw them on top of the house, then they roll down and land in the gutters.
Which have leaves.
Which have leaves in them. Listen, I'm now at my age, I'm like, oh, I get that. That could catch the house on fire. That's dangerous. When they came home, my parents came home first of all, they're driving down the street and they see all this smoke. The giveaway should have been the fact that the smoke was like purple and orange and all these different colors of like, but still you see smoke. I'm sure you're
So your
freaking
parents
out.
were like, are we having a boy or are we having a girl? What's going on here?
Gender reveal. Smoke bombs. What is that? I don't know that one.
What is Brandon trying to tell us?
So me and my stepbrother are throwing these things up in here. They pull up, they freak out. And in my mind, I'm thinking like,
What's the big
the
deal?
house isn't on fire. The smoke is orange. Like, smoke doesn't come out orange. What are y'all freaking out about? Because my dumb ass isn't thinking about the fact that the leaves inside of the thing can catch on fire. Oh, yeah. We got big trouble for that one. That's just one of the many, many, me and my stepbrother, we caused lots and lots of destruction.
So when you guys became stepbrothers, how old were you?
I was 8 and he was 11.
So did you guys become like quick friends?
Yeah, it was one of those things. I
We
met him
just
on
become
my...
best friends.
Yep,
Yes!
100%.
I think we
Just
did.
like the movie. It's probably why I love that movie so much. Did we just become best friends? Yep. You want to go do karate in the garage?
Yep.
Yeah, I actually met him on my 8th birthday.
He was your birthday present.
Yep. That was actually the first time I met my dad, too. So, see, it just got real heavy there for a second. I could tell. Listen. So, they brought, like, water guns. We played water guns, did all that stuff. Like, it was
These
fun.
people are awesome. Yeah, you can hang out. You can stay.
And then we went and got full rollerbladed out, went to the park. I was terrible, like, real bad.
Well, you're tall.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. I wasn't tall then. Now I could crush anyone that even wants to come around in any sort of skating.
He will crush you.
I will break you. But seriously, like, that was one of the things. But my
Give him the
stepbrother,
clamps.
yeah, but my stepbrother was the one. He was the one that got me into hockey. We played roller hockey first, then he got into ice hockey, so I started doing that. And then, I mean, he like went full blown with it. Like, he was actually on the USA. Oh my gosh, yes. Go ahead.
I don't know what
he was
this
on
is.
he lived in Australia, but he was on the USA national team for hockey. He was the captain for the team. So, like, my brother went full blown in this, was always good. But that was one of those things, like, you know, we were always close. It was just one of those of, like, you know, when my parents were working and we had to be at their office, like, we kept each other busy of, like, oh, we'll go over to this building and shoot pucks on the side of it.
Here's some hockey sticks, some smoke bombs, and some water guns.
Yep.
Don't burn anything down.
Go away and don't come back.
Don't burn
until
anything
it's
down
dark.
and don't break any windows.
Yep, 100%. 100%. Jeremy, you got any fun stories? Come on now, you got to have some.
Yeah, man.
I mean,
You're a military boy.
I've got a lot of stories.
There's got to be some destructive. Like, we're already talking about Scott put
Destructive
crazy
stuff?
glue. Yeah.
I mean, we used to like.
You guys are rookies.
You get bored in Iraq sometimes, and there's a lot of shenanigans you get into.
Shenanigans.
I guess one of them I could remember. A couple of the guys in my unit, we were at the motor pool, kind of waiting to go out for a mission, and we decided it would be fun to mess around with the fire suppression systems on some of our vehicles, and not fun. The way the systems work on most of those vehicles is that it evacuates the oxygen out of them to reduce the flame. So
you were in the vehicle?
Yeah,
and you were
me.
messing with it? This
Listen, you'd like to
this
think you
wasn't
were
like
smart
pulling
enough to not, but it's essentially...
This wasn't like pulling the fire alarm and running out of the building. This was like pulling it and watching.
We were actually pulling a bottle to replace one, and events occurred.
Yeah, you want to see what happens.
Something happened,
And maybe this is like helium, and we'll all talk about
the
it.
oxygen quickly started to remove itself from the
By the
vehicle.
way, typical male response. Something happened. I have no idea. Like, oh my gosh.
What had happened
She's
was
like, what? Something happened. I don't know. It's unexplainable. It's an enigma.
Isn't there a pill for that?
Only for you, Scott.
So yeah,
Continuing on.
We almost died, and then we wind up getting out of the vehicle. And
So y'all were inside when you did this. So
Yeah.
just the oxygen got sucked
we
out.
set
and
it.
you're like,
We
oh.
set it off, and we had to open up one of the hatches while it was depressurizing, which is almost
Hard to do.
almost impossible. We get out, and we're starving for oxygen and having a great time. And then one of the guys, we get out of the vehicle finally, and gets this brilliant idea to have his 24-ounce hammer in his hand, and there's a pressurized bottle right there.
Oh my god.
This dude knocks the freaking valve off this bottle, and the bottle goes freaking flying.
100%.
And it's like just doing this crazy. It probably went 200 feet up in the air. It was ridiculous. We got in a lot of trouble for that.
And then it came down where?
Somewhere in the motor pool. Yeah, we were getting yelled at before we even figured out what exactly just happened.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, we're not even quite sure what happened yet. What the hell
One
were
dude,
y'all
the
doing?
bottle flew right past one of the soldiers, like literally inches away from him. Probably would have killed him. So yeah, we
How did
in a bunch.
Yeah.
And that'd be a great one to go home and tell mom. Oh, your son
The
died.
funny
What
part
happened?"
is we're attached to an engineer unit.
Yeah, so I was dicking around.
Because like I said, not an engineer. Where's this full bottle?
Yeah.
High pressure. What happens if I knock
What happens if I knock the end off
Well,
of
I think
it?
he
Maybe
knew,
we should face
I
it
think
this
he
way.
knew what would happen. I think there's something wrong with half the people in the army.
No, I mean, I've taken care of plenty of you. I get it. It's one of those things like you have to be. I understand when I can comprehend. I don't necessarily fully understand, but like I get it, and it's one of those things. Like, listen, I had a patient. This was actually one of my first cases when I was still in clinic at school. That it was he was married to a student that she was coming to see me, and she was like, "Hey, my husband's like this crazy case. I would love for him to come see you because I like what you do. He's been in here a couple times." They tried hooking him up to the electrodes, but his whole body seizes when they do that. They tried this, like, all these crazy things. She's like, he'll faint and drop on his face out of nowhere, like, all this crazy stuff. But I would always pick his brain about stories, and he kind of had a group of guys that he ran, and he's like, I would find them, bored playing games of playing nut shot with rocks, like sitting across the room, throwing rocks at each other's nuts, just like, you ain't got nothing else to do. Like, just sitting here waiting, boss. Like, when are you going to send us out? What are we doing? Like,
straight up kicked rocks around. I mean, the desert.
It's like
dude.
Oklahoma, except without the pizza.
oh, my
And more
gosh.
sand.
Oh, my gosh. I apologize for all these
Like
people
Oklahoma
here
with sand. Right? Yeah.
Right now.
And no pizza.
What they're trying to say is Oklahoma sucks, man.
Listen, you can think what you want. It's okay.
I
You
didn't
guys
say
can
it.
crucify him. It's fine.
That's what they're
Wow,
saying.
Jeremy did go straight up for the jugular. Scott
didn't-
does his like skate around thing where he's like,
I did.
I don't
I didn't
necessarily
say
disagree with
I
you.
didn't say it
But
sucks.
do you agree
I mean,
with
people
me?
do like it there.
The 1,000 people that are there, right?
Exactly.
I could just let this thing go silent. You know that's what could happen, right? I could just sit here and they would stare at me like, what do we do now? I don't know. Ask the guy from Oklahoma. Sorry. I wouldn't know what to do. Goodness. All right, so then we're going to go ahead and move into something fun that's called Can I Coat That?
Powder coat it. Or coat it in general.
it.
So,
we wanted
show.
to. You know what I wanted to call the company originally? I wanted to call it Coat Yo.
coat, yo?
We coat yo car. We coat yo brakes.
No, it makes me think of like you got to get a winter coat on, like coat, yo. What is that, like a new brand? Is that like the
It
Supreme
sounds like
of
some more
coats?
organic version of Greek yogurt.
And just for the record, if anybody takes that, we do expect royalties. At least I do.
Nobody's taking that. I
Nobody's
think you're
taking
okay.
That's why it was only $1.
Everybody's literally sitting here like, I don't think anyone's going to take that. I think you're safe.
Well, I think
That's not going to be on Shark Tank,
it wasn't.
Scott.
It
You're
wasn't
okay.
much worse than Raging Canary. I mean,
Yeah, I wanted Raging Canary.
Oh, I remember. Listen, me and you, like, we worked on this. I tried to help him with a couple things because I wanted him to have,
I
like,
hope you didn't
a
help him with
mascot.
that one. 'Cause
No,
That was a good one.
no. He also wanted psychedelic canary. There was a couple different versions of the canary.
Oh no.
Which a canary's just, I don't know.
Dude.
I just don't.
I know.
Exactly.
I know we talked about Looney Tunes early on, and it was probably before your
forgot.
guys' time.
No, not a chance.
But
I love Looney
Tweety
Tunes.
Bird was a badass, man.
She was. I get it, but I'm just saying, like, that was with Looney Tunes. I get building a brand off of something like that, but you're not Looney Tunes.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Anyways, so you guys can explain a little bit before I dive into this on, like, so with the brand Etchus, hashtag cheap plug always, you guys can coat a lot of different things. So do you maybe want to explain that a little bit before I start going into these on, like, what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, we right now we offer ceramic and powder coating. Ceramic coating, we're using the Cerakote brand.
Now I know what Cerakote means, because
Yeah,
I always hear that. I didn't know that it was short
Well,
for ceramic.
it is, but
Did you find that in a
Cerakote's like a
book, or
brand.
did you find that online?
I just found it out right now from Jeremy's mouth.
Outstanding.
Sorry, Lenny's mouth. I mean, Jeremy. Sorry, I keep
Like
going back and
Band-Aid
forth.
is a
Mr.
brand.
Kravitz
Let's
name.
just call him
Bandages.
Mr. Kravitz.
Not the actual thing.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask them, can you coat this? And they're going to tell me,
Okay.
basically.
Shoot.
We'll see how this goes. I'm going to see who wants to jump in on this. So first one, we'll just throw out an easy one. Can I get my rims coated?
We call them wheels, but yes, you can get them coated.
Well, everyone else calls them rims. So
Well, a rim is on a basketball hoop, not on.
there's a lot of different rims. You ever
wheel.
taken it to the rim?
expand your.
And the basketball, golly,
Man.
sometimes I swear.
You know what?
like,
He's sitting there and
you
he's
make one thing and
he's
there's some
thinking-
innuendo about.
He's thinking of the last episode and that one compliment, and he's like, "How did he get this?
How did he know that?
How did he know?"
How about brakes? Are they called anything else?
No, we can-
stoppers?
We call
you
them
call those
stopping
stoppers?
devices.
Automotive stopping devices. Correct. We can do those too.
What about pew pew devices, also known as guns?
Pew pew.
Pew pew.
That would fall under ceramic, and yeah, we could definitely coat those with solids, patterns.
What about like a sitting device?
A sitting.
Like
yeah,
a
like
wheelchair.
furniture.
Like a wheelchair.
I'm just gonna give everything a double name now. So he's just like, we don't call those rims. We call those wheels.
sitting devices.
we can do furnitures. Yeah.
Does it have to be anything specific? Like, does there has to be like
Typically
something
a metal.
metal, preferably?
metal.
So anything that has that on there.
Well, because the powder coating's applied electrostatically, so it's got to be able to have some sort of charge on it.
So if you had like an industrial look, essentially, that would be something that you guys could do, like something that's got a good crossover
Totally.
between like some wood and some metal, different things like that.
Yep.
And we can do, like, the cool thing about powder coating from what I've experienced doing it for the last couple of years, you can really kind of like take it and run with it. Like, you can do patina effects like flash rust things and then clear over it. You can really do a lot of different style finishes. It's not just the coloring, which is pretty cool.
So there's a couple of different components with powder coating, right? One is just a protective property, right? So it doesn't matter how it looks. You put this material on it, it coats it, it keeps it from rusting. You're great long term. The other side of that business, where we tend to specialize in, is the custom aspect, right? So really good detail, really clean. Like when you get a car painted, you can get orange peel on the paint, and it looks like crap. When it's done nicely, you're like, wow, that car's got a really good paint job. Powder coat kind of operates the same way. So if you take your time in the preparation and you make sure the environment that you're doing this in is correct, things come out amazing.
Artistic.
There's a lot of art to it. Just like
Well, I know in some of the guns and stuff that you showed me when you were like, hey, we can do this because
Well-
it doesn't mess with the internal, the ability for everything to work on the inside, because as you coat it, it can increase the thickness of some of the...
Yeah, there are some things that you won't coat, but that would fall under ceramic. It's a lot different from powder. So the ceramic lays down a much thinner mill thickness profile. The powder coat is much thicker.
1 mil, right?
Yeah, so to throw some science
Boom.
at you, it's about 1 mil thick or less on the ceramic coating. And for those of you that don't know what a mil thickness is, just to give you something to compare it to, your typical shopping bag, the plastic bags at a grocery store, are 2 mils thick. So this is even
Thinner than that.
half the thickness of the thickness of a shopping bag at the grocery store. So when you factor that and you're looking at a firearm and there's pins and there's different components that make this thing mechanically work together, you can coat it without impacting how the actual device operates.
If you coat it correctly.
If you do it right, yeah.
Correct.
So let's say I had an office and I was going for an industrial look and I had some stuff that was exposed and I was like, hey, I want you to come in and powder coat some of these things. Is that possible?
Yeah, totally.
So literally like a beam or something like that, or if I had something set up, it's like, yeah,
If
no
the
problem.
beam were removable and we would have to do it before it goes and gets installed. It's
Okay.
not something we would do on site.
You can't do it on site, but you could like take it and be able to do that depending on what
As
we're
long as it's
looking
not a
at.
structural beam,
Okay.
right?
So there would be some things you just have to make sure on like watching what that could do. What about like, all the toys that all the guys like to have, like an ATV, a motorcycle, a gator, like any of that stuff, like pretty much anything on that can be...
We have a pretty big following on that because there's a lot of people that have those new off-road toys, the side-by-sides and the four-wheelers. And people are doing custom roll cages and paneling and different stuff like that. So pretty big following. The high heat application also follows in that realm too. Like some people will get their exhaust ceramic coated to try to reduce the amount of surface heat.
Is there anything like that would affect like the job? So if like I'm telling you I want to do something like that, is there different stuff that you have to use depending on like, well, this is an area that heats up quite often, so we would have to do something like this just for it to stay, aesthetically look like you want versus...
Yeah, I've had people ask me to powder coat like exhausts for motorcycles and stuff like that, and you can't. It'll melt,
That's what I figured.
So
'cause it
you
gets
go,
hot.
so you recommend the ceramic because the ceramic, it does really well in high heat applications. It's really scratch resistant, so stuff like exhaust, it really holds up to it. And most of our coatings are good on ceramic for up to about 1900 degrees.
Nice.
So
what's tell me some of the things, what's some of the most ridiculous stuff you've been asked? There's got to be a couple of things where somebody's been like, hey, can you powder coat this?
Well, I've had people ask me to do their entire cars.
The entire car?
Yeah, and it's just it's something that you go to talk to. Most people aren't going to be willing to do the work necessary to get it to a point where I could even do that, because you got to think, if you're bringing me a car, man, you got to pull all the glass off, all the interior, all the electric, everything's got to be off. It's got to be completely bare metal. So most people just,
So if somebody was essentially rebuilding from the ground up on a frame that they had, that would be a good potential.
Correct. So you can start from the ground up from there.
This is real popular on restoration, on any of these things, be it
frame
cars,
off,
trucks, the whole nine.
Frame off restoration.
I've done a frame off restoration before, and it gets wildly out of control. When overhauling was really big back a bunch of years ago, I was like, man, I'm capable, I'm mechanical. Me and some buddies got together, we started tearing a car down, got the frame powder coated, and everything just kind of spawned from there. The frame was coated, so now the axle housing had to be coated. Now the control arms had to be coated. Now I had to get stainless steel fuel lines, stainless steel vent lines. The whole nine. It was one thing after another, and then and then it becomes an art project.
Yep.
100%.
If you've ever followed the lowrider scene, those guys are some of the most meticulous, most amazing builds you've ever seen, but this area is form, function, and art. And it really depends what the client's hoping to achieve. We're never going to coat something that's going to impact them, what I would call mechanically, where the device would stop working unless they were using it for an art project
display
or an award or something along those lines. But
because I have done a French horn randomly.
have you really?
Yeah.
That is pretty random.
Yeah, I've done a lot of real random
Oh, an instrument. I could see that. Hey,
well,
you said.
Yeah, I just got to be careful with your process and stuff like that, because there's a lot of brass.
Yeah.
And all that stuff is abrased, I think is what it's called, when they put the two pieces of metal together. It's almost like oh man.
Like when you're welding copper.
Yeah.
Sweating it together.
Sweating it, essentially. And that stuff, it'll actually melt after a certain temperature. So you got to be careful, You don't
want things falling apart, obviously, on someone's super expensive instrument if they're
well,
willing to go to that
that
level.
is something like that she brought to me. It was her great-great-grandfather's. It's been in it's a family heirloom that's been in their family for a long time, and he had a blue one at one point, and she wanted it blue, and she's like, I'm never going to use it again, so it doesn't matter if it functions. I was like, okay, because I was going to let you know, once I coat this thing, you're not going to be able to use it. All the buttons will be stuck, everything's going to be stuck shut. That's how powder coat gets. It's really thick. If it was ceramic, it'd be a little different. But
So you do that for a decorative piece, anything anybody would want, maybe necessarily a gun.
Yeah.
Something cool like a sword or a knife or anything like that. I'm just thinking of stuff that people put up for decorative.
And then to further what we can offer, with him leading into etching and engraving, man, you can make any project that we do super personal or one off, which I think is really cool. Not a lot of shops offer everything in the same building.
That was part of the reason we joined forces, was the services just beautifully complement each other.
100%. And I've noticed that, I didn't obviously know jack about this until I met you guys. And it's it's fascinating to me. And I think it's a cool market because people have to have their stuff personalized. Literally, listen, I've always got this here. This is Scott literally did this for me. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're not, sorry. But Scott made me this really cool water bottle. It's got my logo on it. It's got my name. Looks awesome. I love it. So it's one of those things. I think you see a lot of people like that. In the day and age where people love the Yetis and the Arctics and they like to have their stuff, it's like, well, I can put this on it. Well, can you put my logo on it? Can you put...
Well, that brings up an interesting thing. You mind if I segue?
Yeah, go ahead.
Brand recognition.
Okay.
Right? The importance of brand recognition. So let's just take... And what kind of struck it with me was you brought up Yeti and Arctic, and in the tumbler market, Yeti was the first one out of the gate. Arctic was number 2. That they fought a little bit, and then everybody in China figured out that they could go and sell this stuff and make minor adjustments, and now you've got every brand under the sun. and pricing is completely all over the board. What kind of fascinates me is the importance of the brand to the people giving these things out. Or let's just take, like, I've got clients that
Fanboys.
absolutely have to have Yeti.
Fanboys.
Right? And these cups engraved could get up to, $40, $50 a piece engraved, because Yeti is so much more expensive than all the knockoffs out there, many of which are just as good, if not better, right? But they want their brand associated with Yeti. And even when I make a pitch, like, hey, like some of the stuff we do is completely blank. So your brand could be the only one on there. It's your mug. It's your deal. And they're like, nope, got to have Yeti. And Yeti's gotten really slick. They've, started changing colors. So we just got an order this week, fairly decent sized order, and they wanted white Yetis. And we're like, sweet. And I call my Yeti distributor, and he's like, white was discontinued yesterday. They don't have any more white.
Yikes.
And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Like, how could they not have white? I mean, it's like one of the nicest colors. And my other suppliers, I got one other supplier that does a white cup that's like a Yeti, and our clients absolutely love them. But I was like,
This guy
damn.
wants Yeti
So it's like,
cups.
well, what colors do they have? It's like, well, they've got their new spring colors. And I'm like, when did Yeti become like an interior design firm where it's like, these are the colors that are in style? And they discontinue, and then they bring out the next batch. I guess it tries to inhibit buying habits with their clients.
I'll tell you why they did it, because the personalization side of the field has really changed that. I mean, you couldn't get Yeti cups in any other color but stainless steel when they first came out.
For a while.
And that was it for a while, until these guys started picking up this stuff and powder coating them, and everybody's buying.
Everyone else started coming out and doing that.
Correct.
Yeti wasn't doing that, so it's. I mean, you talk about branding. It also comes to marketing and understanding your target market and who you're going after and what you're trying to do. Because if I'm trying to get this population, but I'm speaking to this population, it's like there's a disconnect there, and they thought, Of course, being a business, you come out, you're like, let's not be stupid. Let's not have, I love watching Shark Tank. They talk about, having SKUs or just different options of like, how many SKUs do you have on these clothes? And they're like, we have 10,000. And they're like, that's way too many.
Right.
How do you keep up with that?
It's like you go into a restaurant and it's got a limited menu, but they can make a lot of things with the ingredients. You got a potential for a highly profitable
100%.
restaurant. The same thing goes for small business.
Yeah, and some people want to go to the Cheesecake Factory places where they have every single option to the point that you're overwhelmed. And then some people like to go to a place and they're like, listen, there's like...
You can find lemon chicken on like 4 different pages.
100%. It's overwhelming. So I think it's one of those things of...
It's too much.
The competition essentially defined it for them and had to stretch them of like, well, I want a pink one. Arctic's the only one that's got it. That's where I'm going to go. Or I want a camo one. They're the only ones that got it, so they're going to get my business. Like, and then I realize, oh, Arctic's the same as Yeti, like you're talking about. Comparison-wise of like even the cup that I had you make for me, I lost my Hydro Flask, which is like the name brand. And I found this one in a place and it was cheap. And I was like, we'll see how it works. I'll have you like personalize it for me. And it's worked out great.
Same.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's one of those, I have a Hydro Flask lid on it just because I like those for the functionality that it has.
So, if that doesn't tell you that they're all made in the same factory out in China.
I was about to say, I was like, I wonder if this lid will fit on here. And it fit on there. And I was like, that's interesting.
Like for me, and I tell clients a lot of the time, if you want to really stand out, it's not the brand, it's what you do with what you give, right? So like on Dr. Burgundy's cup here, we put his name on it, right? So if you're out there and you're giving out cups with your logo and you put somebody's name on it, it shows them that you thought enough of them to go and have something custom made for them. And it doesn't matter whether it says Yeti or Arctic or whatever the brand is, the only brand that matters is that person's name that you're talking to. And the fact that you took the time, what are you doing? Knucklehead?
Sound effects over
Knucklehead. Wah, 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 wah. So, I mean, it's just been fascinating. And I've seen it throughout. Anyone that kind of gets to market first, that's the brand everybody wants to try and associate themselves with.
Well, and that's the thing. You got to grab up that market share. It's what they always talk about. Like when you're the one that's out there first with something and you grab that up. And now I know there's all these ones. Even Blender Bottle has started coming out and making up their own.
I mean, who would have
We've got
thought?
stainless steel.
When this stuff came out, right? And I'm sure you both remember when Yeti came out. Who would have thought we'd be spending $30 to $50 on a cup? On a cup.
That sometimes doesn't
Right?
even fit in your damn cup holder.
That's exactly right.
It's just one of those things, and like, you know, it's how that stuff works. I mean, it's the same with a phone, man. Who would have thought? You're like, when the iPhone came out, I'm like, I don't want a phone with no buttons.
I want to pay $1,000 for a phone.
Yeah,
and you know what's really interesting though, even going through the technology route, you know, like you look at buying a car, right? So there are people that are brand recognized, but even above that, technology has become such a factor. Mm-hmm. Right? It's kind of tough to buy a used car when you have technology that can't possibly be updated to the latest thing that links with your phone.
100%.
Right? By this,
it's tough to keep up with that stuff.
Right. By this complete integration, it's almost making cars as disposable as phones. Because we are attached to these damn things. Right? I saw a funny meme today. It said the reason they call it a cell phone is because you're like locked in it like a cell.
Into it, yeah.
You know? I thought that was pretty funny. But it's the same kind of stuff. I mean, and the technology then ultimately ends up winning at the end of the day. They've got the two brands, the Yeti and Arctic, or the Apple and Android, right? Mm-hmm. And they go and try and get into everywhere. You might make your car decision based off of what kind of phone you have.
Yeah, it's all those little subtle things. Like, people don't realize. Yeah, like, people don't realize how brand loyalty and just branding on anything. Like, think of the stuff that you're super committed to of like, no, I don't go outside of this brand. I'll even spend more if I know it's this brand. I don't mind. Like, I'm willing to do it. It's because they've created that, and you like to have loyalty to that. Plus, you also, it's like the thing that all the young kids talk about, flex, and it's like, oh, people know. I don't know anything. Like, I know just enough to, like, even get myself in trouble on, like, Supreme and stuff like that. Like, to me, I'm like, it's a red logo with, like, that's literally all it is. But people go nuts over that, and they'll charge you out the face for that stuff.
Cream cheese is one of those things, dude. Philadelphia cream cheese. There's like no other cream cheese.
But there's a difference.
There is. But
is there really a difference, though?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone here said,
Oh, yeah.
I was just trying to play. I can't play the other side. I'm like, no, I totally agree.
Yeah,
there's just some things you can't. Yeah, you can't.
That's not a pizza or a brownie argument. I mean, Philly cream cheese is just
I was trying to play the other side, but every single person in the room was like, no way.
You're going to get killed if you disagree with it.
I know it's random, but I was thinking about it because there is a lot of certain things that I won't replace in my daily life. And, you know, it's a brand thing.
But
really.
when you look at Philly, it's not necessarily just where Zula's from, right? But it's where it's a quality component, right? They've got the right texture. They've got the right consistency, you know.
That's
others haven't matched
the product of knowing what you're gonna get. That's the same with anything. Of like, that's why you go do any of that stuff. It's I know consistently. It's just like going to your favorite restaurant. You know, if you're loyal to that, it may not even be a big name place. It might be some hole in the wall place that you love, and they take good care of you while you're there. And you're like, I go to this place because I know that they're gonna take good care of me. They got this burger that I like whatever it is, and I know I'm gonna get the consistent experience every time. Versus, what if you win every time and you're like, well, the first time the burger had no cheese. The second time the burger had like this weird cheese that was like, I think it was some like weird Velveeta cut from the block thing. And then the next time when I went, it was chicken. It wasn't even a burger. Like
government cheese.
And people laugh at that, but like there are inconsistencies because we talk about this all the time in customer service and taking care of people. There needs to be some consistency in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because that's what people like. There's something that becomes familiar about that. When you change that up, it's like, if you don't handle that the right way, people are like, I can't do that.
Nope, you're absolutely right. So with that in mind, I mean, with other, even in chiropractic, right? I mean, there's other groups that have been there way before you guys got there. So as a small business, from a marketing aspect, right, getting your brand known, getting that quality around it, beating your drum, what works? I mean, I know you and I attend some networking groups together. You know, I've been getting beat up, and you know, everybody wanting me to do some ad-based media, going into some magazines and neighborhood flyers and stuff like that. And, you know, there's also social media and radio and billboards and all kinds of different things. I mean, what are you seeing out there that seems to be working either for you or for others?
So I think the first thing is like you have to figure out, I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about. You have to know your brand and what that is and what you're talking about. If people ask you about what it is that you do, you need to know the ins and outs of that and be able to explain it.
So an educational component to your marketing.
And not just like talk their ear off, but you need to know your USPs, your unique selling points, so that you can have that angle for what you're doing. otherwise, like, what makes you any different? And you're talking about with what I do, like, there's lots of people out there. So what makes you pick me over them? So I have to know all my, like I said, USPs to differentiate myself from that. So I think having that first, like, the further you go into, like, for me, what I do, the better understanding I get of, like, what makes people respond when I say certain things. And then I know I have those things in my pocket as I'm talking to people. I think a lot of people would rather just be lazy and go the route of I'll just get TV and a radio and a whatever commercial and I'll just do all that stuff. And I think depending on what your brand is and what you're doing, you could probably get away with that.
Do you think that's lazy versus strategy, or it's just
well,
knowing
I think it
what
also
they know,
depends on the
or?
type of business. So for like smaller business, I think that you have to have you're associated with that brand. When you're Amazon, that needs to be your strategy because you're trying to go big. Like how big are you trying to go is always the goal. But I think you need to be boots on the ground, out meeting people and connecting with people. I think that's the other thing that's key is, staying in front of people's faces as
shaking
often as you
hands
can.
and kissing babies.
100%. Meeting people, connecting with them, also figuring out how you can connect and serve them. How can I help you? Don't always go into everything trying to figure out what's in it for me, even though that's like the default and I get it and I'm into that too. It's how can I serve this person? Who can I connect them with? Maybe I connect this person to Scott and that's a great relationship and this guy orders, Yetis for all of his clients, whatever, and then that was a big time deal. And then maybe now Scott knows someone or his wife has something going on and then Scott's going to be like, you know what, I appreciate that. And I was kind of thinking about, with what you talk about on your videos, like, hey, maybe my wife needs to come in or whatever it is. Like, that's how I tend to see things work. It's not that I'm giving with that expectation. It's that, and it may not even be someone that close to them, but they may be like, hey, I know someone that I work with. I want to send them your way just because I've heard what you talk about with migraines and I know this lady, she's got them bad and she needs help. And so I think when people know you, like I try to make sure that I'm closely associated to my brand with the specific chiropractic centers and what we're doing. Like I'm also a part of that so that people know that that's what they're going to get whenever they see me. And then I think honestly, the thing that works the most effective that people are just either afraid of using or they think it's a waste of time is social media. And I think there's organic that you have to put in the work and do yourself and build and actually do what I'm talking about where you engage with people in the community. You have to actually engage with them on social media, like being social on social media. I know what a crazy concept, but like talking to people, connecting with them, that's what gets them to maybe go check out your page or look at what it is you're doing or follow your stuff. And so there's the organic, component of that of like doing it yourself. But then there's also the paid for ad stuff because you're talking about people trying to get you to spend ads and do all that stuff. And it's not necessarily that it has a bad return. I always go, we like to listen to Gary Vee. I like to go by his model, like based on what I'm spending, what's the return that I'm getting from there. Facebook and Instagram for their return is insane on what you can do. I've been running those pillow ads that we've been doing. It's been less than 2 months and I've had almost 1,000 leads off of that are like solid,
So would you call it safe to say organic social marketing is a good way to just start to build awareness in your network and
it's why
and your 6 degrees
that.
around. But when you go to the sponsored component, don't just boost those organic ads, put something out there that's going to have a lead gen component.
Yeah, you don't want to ever boost. Boosting is just like to get numbers up. And that's really just like, it's brilliant by Facebook's standpoint because it's like, look at this video. It's got 3,000 views. All my other ones get 200 and I spent $50. And it's like, yeah, but what did that get you? Probably nothing other than a video that's got, because I played around with it. What you really want is targeted. So you're like, I'm looking for women. They're aged 24 to 44.
Yeah, that's how I did it too.
Their interests are Dos Equis, because that's what we got here. And they also are part of this group. Like, you have the ability now to you have to do your research and you got to be able to, but now in today's day and age, you can Google or YouTube or figure that out. But you can figure out how to target the people that you're looking for. Like, say for you, you're like, I want to target the people at State Farm. So I can figure out people that work at State Farm and my ad pops up on their thing and I do something that's highly directed at them.
Right.
And I think it's in your marketing, it needs to be direct to them. Like Gary Vee, like I always love the listen to look at what he's doing, not what he's saying. And I watch him, and when he does stuff, it's like, hey, if you're from Texas, and then he goes into it. So he's got me right there. He hooked me in the beginning. Hey, if you like cars, you're like, I like cars. Hey, if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, it's like whatever it is. Hey, if you're into,
right.
It's, hey, if you're someone that's like 44 years old and in this stage in life right now, you're just trying to figure out what the heck you're doing and you just feel lost, it's something that I've used to get you in at that point to stay, because we're in one of those, if you don't grab my attention immediately, I'm gone.
So Jeremy, you started a couple years back. You did pretty heavy in social. What kind of things were working for you, and what would you tell people to try?
You just have to engage.
Starting out.
You just have to get posts that really engage. I mean, you can post a picture up and a cool saying or something, and you'll get some likes and whatever. But most of the stuff that I generated leads from are the posts that I engaged people with. If somebody's commenting on, there's a page that I follow on Facebook. It's called Texas Imports Today. That I think that page has like 10,000 people or more on it. And you'll just get tagged in a post. Like it was once a week. Who do we know that does powder coating in DFW? And 1,000 people would tag, a bunch of different people. But you'll see the more common names come up, and if you engage, just drop your link. This is an example of my work. If you feel like you want to reach out to me, then just let me know, and I'll take care of you. And I generated a lot from that, but also following up on it too, because there's a lot of times where people will get all these tags that they just get overwhelmed and they'll just move on to the next thing.
Well, and they love it, but they never actually do anything with that potential business.
Correct.
And so it's like, it's there. Do you have a system and a process, like you said, to follow up with them and just be like, I can't tell you how many times with what I do, hey, I got a real bad migraine today. Do you know anyone? Like somebody that I know is like, hey, this is a guy that you want to go to. And I'll literally just like, hey, if you want, just reach out to me, let me know. I don't do it right away. I wait a little bit, but then I'll message them and just be like, hey, I saw that this was on here. I just wanted to ask. And I don't even come in of like, let's do this. Like I try to figure out what's going on, because maybe she got something and maybe she doesn't want anything to do, or he or whoever it is, they don't want anything to do with what I've got going on. They're just curious.
Well, a lot of people have tried lots of other things before they come to you, so they don't believe that there's really something that could help.
100%. I know one of the biggest things I always have to overcome, especially just with even what I chose of like really specializing. Obviously, I do a lot of things, but with migraines, is like they're super skeptical. Almost every migraine patient I've worked with, even if they tell me in the beginning, I was just skeptical. I've tried everything. I've been to every specialist. I've done every test. I've done all the things. I did this, I took this route, whatever it is. Everyone always had, I drank more water, I did this thing. It made me help for a little bit, or it didn't do anything, or I tried this thing.
Snake gourds.
Do what?
Snake gourds.
Snake gourds, that's what it was. And some elderberry syrup. That's for you,
right.
Sarah Clark. But no, I think it's one of those things, like you said, it's making sure that you're engaging. Like that's the thing, using social media for that purpose. Like, and I get it, I hear it a lot of times from people that I'm with or whatever it is. And like, I try to make sure if I'm meeting with someone, my phone's away, because I know for me, like if I'm on my phone, I'm usually working. I know sometimes it looks to people like you're just scrolling through this. I'm like, I'm looking at things that I need to engage on.
I'm scanning for leads to my Facebook
I scan on things and I make sure I engage with people, and it's people that I'm looking for influence with.
Leads and
it's
feeds.
The easiest way to do it is just to talk with them. Like most of these people, that's what they're looking for anyway. Hey, I would love for someone who engages with my stuff. I want an audience that's engaged. If you'll become someone that is, they'll tend to do that back.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty well connected with the foodie population in DFW through Instagram, because they love people that will engage on their stuff. And I'm like the only one in anything that does what I do that will ever show up to any of their things, and they appreciate it. So I stick out like a sore thumb anyway, because it's usually a bunch of these, no offense to them, shorter girls. So when I'm at something, there's like
hey, ladies.
Who's this giant over here? So then I show up, but I know
who's
most
this jolly
people,
burgundy giant that's in the
right.
corner of this room?
But I know a lot of people running it, or that are on a panel for whatever it is. And so I luckily get to be introduced to these other people by them. And they're like, oh, hey, and they're talking, and like, in that world, everyone's known by their Instagram handle, which you laugh at, but it's like, oh, you're food with what? Like that's your name. And it's one of those things, like, it's just a different world. But people also don't realize that those people kill it when it comes to business. I have a friend, I'm not going to give you a plug yet, but maybe I will eventually.
You'll have to come on first.
She crushes it when it comes to Instagram. And she's got a marketing business that she's built off of that. And she gets paid to go out to hotels and stay at their place and promote their stuff and do all that. But she makes a killing. Like, I pick her brain all the time, because when it comes to social media, organically, she kills it. And when it comes to like running ads on Instagram's new to me. She just knows how to do that stuff super well. That you're just like, that's why I would go there. That's the guy that I hired for the ad that we were talking about that we've been running. Literally, he's one of the most successful people at it. My coach helped find me. That's why we did it. It was one of those things of like, luckily because of the group that I'm with and the team I have, we get to pick the best guy that's out there. I just get lucky by that, not the fact of like, well, I just met this guy, because when I started running that ad...
You're pulling resources and you're getting it.
But when I ran that ad, I had people that I network with reaching out to me. Like, they run ads, like a friend of mine that runs a gym, and he's like, how'd you change the font on that ad? That's really cool. And I'm like, I have no idea. He's like, what do you mean you're running an ad? I'm like, I'm not in control of it. I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I'm like, I create some of the things for that, but for the most part, I'm not in control of any of that. So it's one of those things of like, you know, when it comes to that stuff and what you're talking about of like being successful, is like also do your due diligence when you're working with someone. Like I said, I've done a social media like workshop where I help people. All the stuff I teach them on is organic, things that they can do themselves for free, and they don't have to worry about stuff, and it helps create engagement. And they come because they're like, oh yeah, I'm on your radar because of the stuff that you do, so I want to figure out how this works. And so that's why they come. But there are so many people out there that can do that stuff. Mm-hmm. Hey, Scott, let me run your Facebook ads and I'll do this, and it's whatever. It's like anyone can set up a Facebook ad. It's what's the return going to be? How's that going to work? What am I going to start seeing from this? You've got to make sure you've got someone that knows their stuff. It's not just Joe Schmo that bought a course online and now he's going to go around showing up, you know, to help you out.
Yeah, that's true.
100%. Hey, I've got a random question for you guys. I saw this the other day. I thought it was interesting.
This might be the final question.
Okay. How do you pronounce cigar?
Cigar.
What kind of question is that?
Listen, this was a thing. People were
this
getting
isn't like water or
cigar
water.
Or cigar. There was like this thing, and it was
Cigar.
Yeah, cigar, right?
Right.
Cigar, I've heard some people say. I think that's like a...
Down south.
Yep. See, Zul knows. I was just curious.
You know, water. I mean, I can understand that as maybe...
Geographical vernacular.
Right. Or like soda and pop and,
like
you know, all
bag
that kind of
or
weird
bag.
stuff.
There's a lot of things like that. Mine's golf is one of them. I know people that say golf. Listen now.
What, are they from Boston or something?
No, they're not. They're just like golf. Like they say golf, but they just don't. It's not. And it's not as obvious as that. It's not as drawn out as that. I'm telling you. Like,
Where are
when
they
say
from?
it, it's like cut off.
Where are they from? What part of Oklahoma?
They're not from Oklahoma. They're from Indiana. Nice try though. People from Oklahoma don't play golf. Well, they actually do.
No, they play golf.
To say that.
They play golf.
People from Oklahoma
That's not
don't
people
play
from
that.
Oklahoma. This person is
Sorry,
from
Indiana.
We don't
Missouri,
play that in
wherever it is.
Oklahoma.
I don't, so I was literally just like, I just slewed everyone in with me. I'm like, well, I don't play it, so y'all don't play it either. Oklahoma, we have no people. We're golfless. Our pizza's the best, though. Sorry, I'm going to stick by that. One of these times, I'm going to take you.
The L is not silent.
I agree. What about milk?
Milk.
Seriously?
Yeah,
Well,
milk.
my daughter will go milk.
I had a guy in high school that was a friend of mine. Milk.
Like with
Milk.
an E?
Yep.
M-E-L-K.
Man, he's gonna have to buy a new vowel.
What are some other... Pillow.
Pillow. You're thinking pillow?
Yeah. Pillow.
About.
I mean, and then there's roof.
Roof.
Up on the roof.
Rough.
Like a dog. Rough.
I'm up on the rough.
Just the way your mama likes it. Trebek. Sorry, I had to go there. A little SNL. You have to whenever you hear that. I got to do it. I can't not.
Wow.
Listen. Wolf.
Woof.
I can't say
I
who
call
that
it
one
wolf.
is. They'll get upset if I mention whose that one is. That is another
Wolf?
one that I have. Yeah.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Do you bark back when they say it?
No, not a chance.
It's his wife.
Oh my gosh. Nailed it. Shh, don't say anything. She doesn't listen anyway. I'm safe, so it doesn't matter.
We're gonna be at like episode.
Zul's smart. He knows.
We're gonna be at episode 40, and she's gonna be like, "Are you kidding me?"
You're
On
screwed.
episode 6.
I was about to say.
And Zul called me out.
Listen, that stuff's gonna be so
And you
archived
didn't-
back.
and
She'll
you
never
didn't
she'll be like,
stand
the
up for me?
podcast is doing so good.
And you didn't stand up
Be
for
like,
me.
Yeah. People really love the wolf episode. we're talking about that. Okay, guys.
So is it going to be Return of the Wolf, episode 6?
100%.
Nice.
All right, so what we're going to do, Jeremy, plug it again, my man. You get to do it again. Jeremy
Etches
Kravitz.
Coating and Engraving in Dallas.
Where can people find you on your social medias?
At Etches Co. on Instagram or on Facebook. Etches.
No, it's at Etches Co on both of them.
Is that Etches Co on Facebook too? Okay.
Yep, it's all pretty consistent.
Nothing for you. You don't want people following you personally. Don't look you up. Okay. Don't look him up.
Don't look me up.
Somebody post
like
his
what you
link.
find.
Somebody post his Facebook link on this video on YouTube. Somebody just put it on there so everybody will have it. I'm gonna put it in the description.
You should.
You guys can find Jeremy over here.
You know you want to do it.
What is it?
You have to push it and hold it.
Now that's a good app.
Oh my gosh! I guess apparently we've got a sound effects guy now. Sorry, Zool. Zool's like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna fix this?
I fucking hate this guy.
All right, Scott. It's time for your final thought.
Final thought after an air horn.
Like a good Scott would always say, I got nothing. Should I just leave Scott in this moment? I mean, like, this is our close, but I'm just
This
gonna leave
moment
him.
of awe, sitting here thinking about Oklahoma pizza. Doesn't that even just sounds weird to say?
I mean, we just talked about
I think,
so many
I
things.
think, I
Come
think,
on,
I think
there's
Jeremy
your line.
just spit up in his mouth.
there's your
I mean,
line.
He's like Oklahoma.
There's your line. Like a good burp, don't do it on the mic.
Yeah, like a good burp, right? Like keep it inside, right?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Like a good blow, don't tell people about it, right?
I'm Dr. Brandon Brown, and I approve this message.
Phenomena. Phenomena. Phenomena.